Michael had driven thousands of strangers in his Uber over the past 2 years. None of them had ever made his heart stop. But when the woman who slid into his backseat that rainy Seattle night looked exactly like his ex-wife, his hands froze on the steering wheel. Same face, same voice, same laugh. Except this woman didn't recognize him at all. She smiled at him like he was just another driver. That's when Michael realized something impossible was happening, and what started as a simple 15-minute ride would unravel a secret that had been buried for 34 years.
Quick pause. Before we continue, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is absolutely mind-blowing.
The notification lit up Michael's phone at 9:47 p.m. Another ride request. He glanced at the pickup address and his stomach dropped. 2847 Pine Street, apartment 304. That was his old address. The apartment he'd shared with Sarah before the divorce. The place where they'd unpacked wedding gifts and argued about paint colors and slowly, painfully grown apart. Michael hadn't been back to that neighborhood in 2 years, not since he'd loaded the last box into his truck and driven away for good. His finger hovered over the decline button. Seattle had thousands of Uber drivers. Someone else could take this ride. But something made him accept it. Maybe curiosity, maybe the masochistic need to see if Sarah had changed the curtains he'd helped her hang. Maybe just the simple fact that he needed the money and couldn't afford to be precious about where he drove. The rain hammered against the windshield as he navigated through Capitol Hill's narrow streets. The wipers beat a rhythmic pattern that matched his accelerating heartbeat. He pulled up in front of the familiar brick building, the same building where he'd carried Sarah over the threshold after their wedding, both of them laughing and soaked from an unexpected summer storm. The security door opened. A woman emerged, head down against the rain, one hand clutching her phone and the other holding a small purse. Michael's entire body went rigid. It was Sarah. Every detail was exactly right. The way she walked with a slight bounce in her step. The length of her hair, that specific shade of chestnut brown that looked almost red under streetlights. The build of her frame, tall and lean. Even from a distance, Michael could see the small scar on her left knee from a hiking accident on their second anniversary. She opened the back door and slid in, bringing with her the smell of jasmine perfume and rain. "Thank God for the quick pickup," she said, shaking water from her hair. "This weather's brutal." Michael couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. He stared at her in the rearview mirror, waiting for recognition to dawn in her eyes. Waiting for the moment when she would gasp, when she would say his name, when the awkwardness of 2 years of silence would crash down between them. But she just smiled politely and looked down at her phone. "The Daily Grind on Madison. The app should have the address." Michael's voice came out strangled. "Yeah, I've got it." He pulled away from the curb, his mind spinning. Sarah didn't recognize him? His ex-wife of 7 years, the woman who knew every scar on his body and every fear in his heart, was sitting in his back seat treating him like a complete stranger? Had he changed that much? He'd grown a beard, sure, and maybe he'd lost some weight from the stress of the divorce and the long hours driving, but this was impossible. People didn't just forget faces, especially not the face of someone they'd woken up next to for 7 years. "How long have you been driving for Uber?" she asked, making polite conversation. Michael's hands tightened on the wheel. "About 2 years." "It's a tough gig, I bet. All those drunk people on weekends?" "It has its moments." His voice sounded robotic, even to his own ears. He studied her more carefully in the mirror. Every feature was exactly as he remembered. The slight asymmetry of her eyes, the left one just a fraction larger than the right, the small bump on the bridge of her nose from when she'd broken it playing volleyball in high school, the way her lips curved, fuller on the bottom than the top. But there were tiny differences too. Nothing major, nothing that would be noticeable to anyone who hadn't spent 7 years memorizing every inch of someone's face. The way she sat was slightly different, more upright, less of that casual slouch Sarah always had. The energy was different too, more contained, more careful. "You're not from Seattle originally?" Michael heard himself ask. She looked up, surprised by the question. How did you know? Just a guess. Portland, actually. Just moved here last month for work. Still getting used to the city. She laughed, and Michael's heart nearly stopped. That laugh, that exact laugh, the way it started in her throat and bubbled up, genuine and unguarded. Sarah's laugh, the sound that had made him fall in love with her at a college party 11 years ago. But this wasn't Sarah. Couldn't be Sarah. Because Sarah grew up in Tacoma, not Portland. And Sarah had lived in Seattle for 15 years. And Sarah would never ever look at him like he was a stranger. What kind of work? The question came out before he could stop it. He's being too conversational, too probing. Uber drivers aren't supposed to interrogate their passengers. Graphic design. Tech company near Pioneer Square. She tilted her head, studying him in the mirror with a small smile. You ask a lot of questions. Sorry, just making conversation. It's fine. Better than an awkward silence. She went back to her phone, fingers flying over the screen. Michael's mind raced through possibilities, each more unlikely than the last. A doppelganger, a bizarre coincidence, some kind of elaborate prank. Maybe Sarah had a sister she'd never mentioned? But no, that was impossible too. Sarah was an only child, adopted as an infant. She told him about her adoption early in our relationship, about the closed adoption records and the parents who loved her fiercely but could never tell her anything about where she came from. Adopted as an infant. The thought lodged in Michael's brain like a splinter. I remembered late-night conversations in bed, Sarah wondering aloud if she had biological siblings somewhere, the what-ifs that haunted her, especially around her birthday. What if there was a brother or sister out there who shared her face, her mannerisms, her laugh? What if? Can I ask you something? This is going to sound strange, but were you adopted? In the rearview mirror, I saw her entire body go still. Her eyes lifted from her phone to meet his in the reflection. That's a really personal question from an Uber driver. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. But yes. Her voice was quieter now, guarded. How did you know? Michael's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Just intuition, I guess.
She was watching him now with more interest, her phone forgotten in her lap. You're a strange one. That's what my ex-wife used to say. Where is she now, your ex-wife? Michael almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Seattle. Somewhere in Seattle. They drove in silence for a few blocks. The rain had intensified, turning the city into a blur of reflected neon and streetlights. Michael's mind was working through the logistics, the impossibilities, the timeline. If this woman, if she really was Sarah's twin, had been separated at birth and adopted by a different family, they would have grown up completely apart, never knowing about each other, living separate lives just a few hours away in different Oregon cities. What date were you born? The question burst out of him before he could reconsider. Now she laughed, but it was an uncertain laugh. Okay, this is getting weird. Are you going to tell me you're a psychic or something? Please, just humor me. She hesitated, clearly debating whether to answer or to report him to Uber for being creepy. April 14th, 1991. Michael nearly swerved into the next lane. April 14th, Sarah's birthday. The same day. What agency? He asked, his voice urgent now. What adoption agency? I don't think I should tell you that. Please, this is important. Why? What's going on? There was fear creeping into her voice now. Michael made a decision. He pulled over into a grocery store parking lot and put the car in park. In the mirror, he could see her tense, her hand moving toward the door handle. She was probably already thinking about how to report this, how to get out safely. I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to show you something. Please, just look at this one picture, and then I'll take you wherever you want to go, I promise. This is really inappropriate. I know it is, but please, just one picture. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking, and scrolled through his photos until he found one he'd kept for reasons he couldn't explain. Sarah at Pike Place Market, laughing at something off camera, her hair caught in the wind, the sun making her face glow. He'd taken it 6 months before the divorce, back when they were still trying. He turned the phone around so she could see it. The woman in his back seat went white, actually white. The color drained from her face so fast Michael thought she might faint. Her hand came up to her mouth, trembling. "What is this?" "That's Sarah, my ex-wife, taken 2 years ago." She was staring at the photo like it was a ghost. That's not possible." "What's your name?" Michael asked gently. "Emma." The word came out broken. "My name is Emma. When were you born?" "You know when. April 14th, 34 years ago." "Where?" "Eugene, Oregon, at Sacred Heart Medical Center. The adoption was arranged through Family Connections Northwest. They closed down in the 90s after a fire destroyed most of their records." Michael felt something click into place in his chest. A piece of a puzzle he didn't know existed. Sarah was born at Sacred Heart. Same agency, same day, same hospital. Emma's hands were shaking now, both of them pressed against her face. No, this isn't. There was never any indication. They told my parents I was a single birth. There was nothing in the papers about siblings." "Records got destroyed," Michael said quietly. "Maybe it got lost in the fire." Emma finally looked up from the photo, and her eyes were filled with tears. But they weren't sad tears. They were the tears of someone who had spent their entire life feeling incomplete and was suddenly seeing a possibility they'd never dared to hope for. "You said she's your ex-wife. Does that mean you know where she is?" Michael sat in the driver's seat, engine idling, rain drumming against the roof. Emma stared at Sarah's photo, her hand trembling. "I've looked at myself in the mirror every day for 34 years, but I've never seen myself like this. Never seen myself like this, so alive, happy." She traced a finger over the screen. "Tell me about her."
Michael hesitated. How do you describe your ex-wife to someone who might be her identical twin? "Sarah is complicated," he began. "Brilliant. Funny. She sees patterns in things others miss. She's a data analyst, works with algorithms. She can look at spreadsheets and see whole human lives behind the numbers." "What is she like?" The question hurt in unexpected ways. Terrible puns. She pretends to hate them but loves them. Spends hours in bookstores. Obsessed with true crime podcasts but terrified of horror movies. Drinks coffee with way too much sugar. Emma was crying openly. "I do all of those things. The bookstores, the podcasts. Can't watch horror movies. Everyone says I use too much sugar in my coffee." Michael turned to face her directly. "Emma, I haven't spoken to Sarah in 2 years. Our divorce wasn't ugly, but it wasn't friendly. We just stopped being able to talk. Stopped being able to be in the same room without suffocating." "But you kept her picture." He didn't have an answer for that. "Why are you telling me this?" Emma asked. "You could have just driven me to the coffee shop and never said anything." "Because Sarah spent our entire marriage wondering if there was someone out there who shared her DNA. It haunted her. She'd have these moments where she'd just stare at nothing, and I knew she was thinking about the family she'd never know." "So you're doing this for her." "I'm doing this because it's the right thing, because I failed Sarah in many ways, but I don't want to fail her in this." He met Emma's eyes. "But you need to understand what you're walking into. This will shake her entire world." Emma wiped her eyes. "My whole life I felt like something was missing, like there was a piece of me somewhere else. I used to dream about someone like me, someone who understood without explanation." "Sarah did the same thing," Michael said quietly. "She'd dream about a girl who looked like her." They sat in heavy silence. "There's only one way to find out," Michael said, pulling out his phone. Sarah's contact was still listed as Sarah Love because he'd never had the heart to change it. He pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. On the fourth ring, Michael? Sarah sounded shocked, wary. Why are you calling me? I need you to meet me somewhere. It's important. Life-changing important. Michael, we agreed. I know what we agreed. But this matters. Please, Sarah, trust me one more time. A long pause. He could hear her breathing, could almost see her pacing. Are you okay? Are you in trouble? I'm fine. I'm at the Safeway on Pine Street. Can you meet me at the Daily Grind in 20 minutes? Michael, you're scaring me. I can't explain over the phone. You just have to trust me. Please. Another pause. Okay, 20 minutes. But Michael, this better not be some closure thing. I can't do that. It's not, I promise. She hung up. Michael looked at Emma in the back seat. Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. Emma looked at him with an expression heartbreakingly familiar, the same look Sarah used to give when taking a leap of faith. I've spent 34 years feeling like half a person. If there's even a chance this is real, then yes, I'm sure. They drove in silence to the Daily Grind, the coffee shop where he and Sarah had their first date, where they'd spent countless Sunday mornings, where they'd agreed to get divorced, both crying while signing papers. She's not here yet, Michael said. We're early. Emma unbuckled but didn't move. Michael, thank you. I know this can't be easy. Emma, Sarah has walls. High walls. She's going to be shocked, maybe angry. This will be overwhelming. I understand. And there's something else. Sarah might look at you and see everything she could have been, a whole different life. That might be hard for both of you. A car pulled into the lot, a small blue Honda Civic. Michael's stomach clenched. She's here. Sarah parked and got out, pulling her jacket tight. Michael could read every line of her body language, nervous, putting on a brave face, second-guessing everything. She hadn't seen them yet. Should we get out? Emma asked, voice shaking. Not yet. Let her go inside first. They watched Sarah enter the coffee shop, find a table by the window, sit down facing the door, waiting, checking her phone, running her hair through her hair, her anxious tell. She looks exactly like me, Emma whispered. Seeing her move, in real life, it's like watching myself from outside. Are you ready? Emma took a deep breath. No, but let's do it anyway. They got out and walked toward the shop. Emma stayed slightly behind Michael. Through the window, Sarah spotted Michael approaching. Her expression shifted. Confusion. Apprehension. Something that might have been residual affection. But she hadn't seen Emma yet. Michael opened the door. The smell of coffee and rain-damp wood hit him. The purple-haired barista waved. Sarah was half standing. Michael, what's... The words died. Emma had stepped in behind him. The coffee shop didn't actually go silent. The espresso machine still hissed, music still played, but for Sarah, the world had contracted to a single point. She stared at Emma with an expression beyond shock, beyond comprehension. No, she whispered. Then louder, no. This isn't... Her legs gave out. She sat down hard, hand pressed to her chest, like she was keeping her heart from beating out. Emma stood frozen in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Neither could move, neither could speak. They just stared, two identical women separated by 20 feet and 34 years. Michael moved first. He walked to Sarah's table, pulled out a chair, and gestured for Emma to sit. Emma moved like she was underwater, slow and dreamlike. Sarah, this is Emma, Michael said gently. Sarah's eyes never left Emma's face. This is a joke. This is some kind of cruel... It's not a joke, Emma said, and Sarah flinched at hearing her own voice from someone else. I'm real. I think I'm your sister. I don't have a sister, Sarah's voice shook. The adoption paper said, the agency closed. Fire destroyed records. What if the papers were wrong? Sarah looked at Michael, eyes wild. What did you do? How did you find her? I didn't find her. She got into my Uber. It was just chance. There's no such thing as chance like this. When were you born, Emma? Sarah asked Emma. April 14th, 1991, Sacred Heart Medical Center in Eugene, Oregon. adopted through Family Connections Northwest. Sarah's face crumpled. That's exactly. I know. They sat in charged silence. Then Sarah asked, Can I touch you? I need to know you're real. Emma nodded, unable to speak. Sarah reached across the table with trembling fingers and touched Emma's face, just the lightest touch, fingertips against cheekbone. Sarah's eyes closed, more tears spilling. Then Sarah raised her own hand, and Emma touched her face in the same spot. They sat like that, hands on each other's faces, crying silently, while the coffee shop continued around them, oblivious to the miracle at table 6. After long minutes, Sarah pulled back. I have so many questions, I don't know where to start. They fell into rapid-fire exchanges, favorite foods, fears, dreams, everything. The similarities were stunning. But as Michael watched them connect, something nagged at him. Emma's story was almost too perfect. And when Emma's phone lit up with a text preview, "Did you get the money yet?" from someone named Rick, Michael's blood ran cold. He said nothing, but a terrible suspicion began to form.
Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
The conversation flowed between Sarah and Emma like they'd known each other for years. They compared scars, the hiking accident on the left knee, the burn on the right thumb. Every tiny imperfection matched. I always felt incomplete, Emma said, like I was only half a person. Yes, Sarah breathed, exactly that. Michael sat quietly watching. The purple-haired barista brought coffees, 2 with excessive sugar, 1 black. Sarah and Emma reached for sugar packets simultaneously, pouring identical amounts. They caught each other and laughed in perfect harmony. But Michael couldn't shake what he'd seen. That text message. Did you get the money yet? Emma's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, typed quickly, then looked up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. This is so overwhelming. Can I use the restroom? Of course, Sarah said. Emma left and Sarah immediately turned to Michael. Did you see that? What? The way she pulled back when I tried to hold her hand, like she was afraid. She just told you she attempted suicide. That's vulnerable. She's probably overwhelmed. Maybe. Sarah didn't sound convinced. 2 minutes passed. 3. Michael was starting to worry when Emma returned. Her face was washed, composed, but there was something different in her eyes. Can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. Do you have money? Are you financially stable? The question was so unexpected that Sarah blinked. Yes. Tech industry pays well. I have savings. Why? And you own property? I have a condo. Emma, what's going on? Emma took a breath. I need to tell you the truth about why I'm really here. Michael felt ice slide down his spine. What do you mean, really here? Sarah's voice had an edge. I didn't just move to Seattle for work. I moved here for you. The coffee shop seemed to shrink. What? Sarah whispered. Emma pulled out her phone, opened a DNA Ancestry app. She turned the screen towards Sarah. I've known about you for 3 months. I found you through this site. We matched as siblings. I've been planning this. Sarah took the phone with shaking hands. Michael could see months of research. Sarah's social media, her address, her workplace. You knew? Sarah's voice was breaking. This whole time you pretended? I had to be sure. I had to see you in person, see if the connection was real. So this was a test? Sarah stood abruptly, chair scraping. Several people turned to look. You manipulated this entire meeting? No, not a test. I just needed... You let me think this was fate. You let me think this was a miracle, and the whole time you were manipulating it? I wasn't manipulating. Then what do you call researching someone for months, moving to their city, and pretending it's a coincidence? Sarah turned to Michael. Did you know? No, I said firmly. Sarah, I swear, this was random. God, I'm so stupid. Sarah pressed her hands to her face. You're not stupid. She's a professional. She finds vulnerable people and exploits them. A twin who lied from the first word. A twin who manipulated this whole meeting to see if I was worth scamming. She said she needed to know if you'd want her. That's manipulation 101, Sarah said flatly. Play the victim, make yourself sympathetic, then ask for help. Michael wanted to argue but couldn't find words. Emma had done exactly that. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced and went pale. She's texting me. She got my number from the DNA site. She read out loud. Please let me explain. I know I messed up. Please give me a chance. Another text. I have proof. Proof I'm not lying about everything. Please. Are you going to respond? Sarah stared at the phone, then set it face down. No, I'm going home. I'm going to pretend tonight never happened. Sarah, don't tell me I'm making a mistake. I can't go through another betrayal. I can't open myself up only to find out they're using me. The weight of that word settled between them. Michael knew she wasn't just talking about Emma. I never used you, he said quietly.
I know, but you left anyway. Everyone leaves. At least Emma was honest about what she wanted. Before I got too attached. She's probably still outside, in the rain. If you change your mind, I won't. But Sarah didn't move toward the door. They stood in silence. What if she's telling the truth? Michael said. What if she's desperate and alone and made a terrible choice because she was scared? Then she'll live with those consequences, like we lived with ours. What's that supposed to mean? We made choices too. We chose silence over communication. We chose to avoid hard conversations. We chose to let the marriage die instead of fighting for it. We both had to live with those consequences. That's different. Is it? We both regret how things ended, but we can't change the past. We can only decide what to do with what's in front of us now. Sarah's phone buzzed again. She read, and her face changed. She says she has our birth mother's name. Michael's heart skipped. What? She says that's why she found me through DNA. Our birth mother did a test too. Emma has her name, her address, everything. Sarah looked up, eyes wide. She says she'll give me the information. No strings attached. Just asks for one more chance to explain? Could be a lie. Could be the truth. Only one way to find out. Sarah stared at her phone, then typed something and hit send. I told her she has 5 minutes. That's it. Okay. And I want you to stay. Please, I need someone who can see clearly. I'll stay. 2 minutes passed. 3. Then the door chimed. Emma walked in, soaked, mascara running in black streaks. She looked broken. She sat without speaking, then pulled out her phone and slid it to Sarah. Her name is Patricia Morrison, Emma said, voice hoarse. She lives in Bend, Oregon. She's 53. She's a teacher. Never married. Never had other children. Her voice cracked. And she's been looking for us for 34 years. Sarah picked up the phone with shaking hands. On screen was a DNA match report, clearly showing a mother-daughter relationship. Below it was a profile with a photo of a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and Sarah's smile. In the messages were dozens from Patricia Morrison to Emma, dating back months. I've been searching for you since the day I gave you up. Please contact me. I need to know you're okay. I need to tell you why. She read through them, hand pressed to her mouth, tears streaming. She's been looking, Emma said softly. She's been searching for both of us since we turned 18. She hired investigators. She contacted the agency before it closed, but records were destroyed and she had no way to reach us. Why didn't you tell me this immediately? Emma looked at her hands. Because I'm scared. I've lost everyone I'd ever loved, and I'm terrified of losing you two. I thought if I could meet you first, see if we connected, then I could tell you about her." "So you manipulated me instead?" "Yes. I made a terrible choice because I was terrified, and I'm sorry." Sarah looked at the phone. "Does she know about me, that there were two of us?" Emma shook her head. "Not yet. I only found you a few months ago. I wanted us to contact her together." "Or you wanted to make sure I'd help you first?" "Yes, that too. Sarah, I'm not going to lie anymore. Yes, I need help. I'm broke, living in a studio that costs too much, working 3 jobs and barely making rent. When I found out I had a sister who was stable, who had money, yes, I thought about asking for help. But that's not why I wanted to meet you. I wanted to meet you because I've been alone my entire adult life, and finding out I had a twin was like finding out I could breathe after drowning for years." Sarah was quiet for a long time. Finally, "If I give you a chance, you have to promise me something." "Anything." "No more lies, ever. I don't care how ugly the truth is. No more manipulation, tests or games. Just honesty. Can you do that?" Emma nodded through tears. "Yes, complete honesty." "Okay. Then here's my truth. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I feel betrayed, and I don't know if I can trust you. But you're my sister, my twin, and despite everything, when I look at you, I feel less alone than I felt in my entire life. So I'm willing to try. But you have to earn my trust back. Understand?" "I understand. And about money, I'm not handing you a check, but I'll help you find a better job. Help with your resume, connections. I'll teach you what I know. But you work for it. Deal?" "Deal." They sat looking at each other, two halves still figuring out how to fit together. "So," Sarah said, "do we call her her birth mother? Do you want to?" "I don't know. An hour ago I didn't know I had a sister. Now I might have a mother too. We could wait, get to know each other first. Or we could call her right now, rip the bandage off." They looked at Michael. "I think you should both decide what you're comfortable with. But if Patricia has been searching 34 years, waiting another day won't kill her. Give yourselves time to process." Sarah nodded. "You're right. Let's exchange numbers. Real numbers. Meet again in a few days. Take this slow." "Okay. Slow." They exchanged phones and input contact information. When Emma handed Sarah's phone back, Sarah hesitated, then reached across and took Emma's hand. "I'm glad you're here. Even with the lies and manipulation and all of it, I'm glad you're here." Emma squeezed her hand, unable to speak through tears. Michael watched them, strangers and sisters all at once, and felt something settle in his chest. He'd done the right thing. Whatever complications arose, he'd given them this chance. But as Emma stood to leave, Michael saw something that made his blood run cold. A text notification on Emma's phone visible for just a second. A message from Rick that read, "Did you get the money yet? Boss is getting impatient."
Michael's hands went cold. He should say something. But the message disappeared as Emma pocketed her phone, and Sarah was smiling, actually smiling, for the first time all night. How could he destroy that? "I should get going," Emma said. "It's late and I have work tomorrow." "Do you need a ride?" Michael heard himself ask, even though every instinct screamed to keep quiet. "I'm still on the clock." Emma glanced at him, and for a split second, Michael saw something in her eyes. Fear? Calculation? "That would be great." "I'll walk out with you," Sarah said. She pulled Emma into a hug, tentative at first, then tighter. "Text me tomorrow. We'll figure this out together." "I promise." Sarah waved goodbye and headed to her car. Michael and Emma walked to his Uber in silence. The moment they were inside, Emma's demeanor changed. The vulnerability, the tears, it all melted like a mask removed. She checked her phone immediately, typing rapidly. Michael pulled out of the lot, mind racing. "So, that went better than expected?" "Yeah," Emma said absently. "She's easier than I thought. All that emotional stuff really works on her." Michael's hands tightened on the wheel. "Manipulate?" Emma looked up, realizing what she had said. "I didn't mean... Who's Rick?" The blood drained from her face. "What? I saw the text. Did you get the money yet? Who's Rick?" Emma stared at him, cycling through options. She settled on truth, or a version of it. "He's my boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. Whatever. And he's asking about money." "It's not what you think." "Then explain." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Pull over." "No." "Pull over or I'm getting out right now." Michael pulled into an empty parking lot. He turned to face her. "Start talking." "Okay, fine, the whole truth. I'm broke. Completely broke. I owe people money. Bad people. The kind who don't accept, 'I'll pay you later.'" "What kind of people?" "Does it matter? The point is I need money. A lot of money. And when I found out I had a twin sister who works in tech and owns property, yeah, I saw an opportunity." "So this whole thing was a con, from the beginning?" "No," Emma said fiercely. "The feelings were real. Everything I said about feeling incomplete, about searching for family, that was true. But yes, I also need help. Those two things can be true at the same time." "Does Sarah actually have a birth mother looking for her, or was that a lie too?" "That's real. Patricia Morrison is real. The DNA match is real. The messages are real." "But you're planning to use that information as leverage to get money from Sarah?" I looked away. "Rick thinks I should. He says it's worth at least $50,000. Information like that." "Rick, the ex-boyfriend. He's not a bad guy. He's in trouble too. We both are. And Sarah has money, Michael. So much money that $50,000 wouldn't even dent her savings. Is it really so wrong to ask family for help?" "It's extortion," Michael said flatly. "You're talking about extorting your own sister." "I prefer to think of it as a finder's fee," Emma said with an edge. "I did the work. I found Patricia. I did the DNA test. I connected the dots. Sarah would never have found her birth mother without me. Is it really so wrong to expect compensation?" Michael felt sick. "Everything you said in that coffee shop was a lie." "Not everything. I meant the part about feeling alone, about wanting a sister." Emma's voice softened. "I didn't plan to actually like her, but she's everything I'm not. Stable, successful, kind. She's had all the opportunities I never got. Her adoptive parents gave her a good life. Mine gave me a mediocre one in a small town with no future. So yeah, I think she owes me something." "She doesn't owe you anything. You were both adopted. The fact that she ended up with a better life doesn't mean she owes you compensation. Easy for you to say. You've never been desperate. You've never had to choose between rent and food. You've never had people threatening you. So your solution is to threaten your sister instead." "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm asking for help. And if she says no, then yeah, maybe I keep the information about Patricia to myself for a while. That's not a threat. That's strategic." Michael stared at her, this woman who looked exactly like his ex-wife, but was nothing like her. "I'm going to tell Sarah." "No, you're not," Emma said confidently. "Yes, I am." "No, because if you tell Sarah, I'll tell her you're only doing this to get back with her, that you orchestrated this whole meeting to make yourself look like a hero, that you've been stalking her for 2 years, obsessed with her, and you found me and you used me to worm your way back into her life." Michael felt his chest tighten. "That's not true." "Doesn't matter if it's true. It's believable. Think about it. Her ex-husband just so happens to pick up a ride from her identical sister. What are the odds? She'll believe me, especially after I show her the text you sent me."
What texts? I never texted you." Emma smiled. Sarah's smile, twisted, cruel. "You will have. By the time I'm done, you'll have been messaging me for weeks, planning this. I'm good with photo editing, Michael. Real good." Michael's mind reeled. "You're insane." "I'm desperate. There's a difference. And desperate people do desperate things." Silence. Rain pounded the car roof. "So here's what's going to happen," Emma said, businesslike. "You're going to keep quiet. I'm going to build a relationship with Sarah over the next few weeks. I'm going to be the perfect sister, vulnerable, grateful, working hard to earn her trust. And when the time is right, I'm going to ask her for help. $50,000 to pay off debts and start fresh. And she's going to give it to me because she's kind and generous and feels guilty she had a better life. And if she says no, then I tell her about Patricia. But here's the twist. I tell her Patricia doesn't want to meet her, that I reached out and Patricia said she only wants to reunite with me, that Sarah was the one she didn't want, the one she's glad she gave away. Can you imagine what that would do to her? The rejection, after everything?" Michael felt rage building, hot and dangerous. "You're a monster." "I'm a survivor, and you're going to help me because you love Sarah too much to hurt her. You saw how happy she was tonight, how complete she felt. Are you really going to take that away? Are you really going to tell her that her twin sister is a con artist? That this miracle was all a lie?" She was right, and Michael hated her for it. Telling Sarah would destroy her. It would confirm every fear about being unlovable, about trusting people. It would break her in ways the divorce never did. But saying nothing would let Emma continue, would let Sarah walk away to Ab, would make Michael complicit. "I need to think about it," Michael said finally. "You have until tomorrow. After that, I'm moving forward with or without you. And if you get in my way, I'll burn your life down, Michael. I'll make sure Sarah hates you. I'll make sure everyone thinks you're the villain. Understand? Get out of my car." Emma smiled and opened the door. "Thanks for the ride. I'll leave you a 5-star review." She disappeared into the rain. Michael sat there, hands shaking. What had he done? He thought he was reuniting sisters, creating a miracle. Instead, he'd delivered Sarah to someone who wanted to destroy her. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Thank you again for tonight. I know this was weird and complicated, but you gave me something I've wanted my entire life. I'll never forget that." Michael stared at the message until his vision blurred. He drove for hours, circling Seattle streets, mind churning through options. Tell Sarah the truth, but Emma would retaliate and Sarah might not believe him. Confront Emma again, but she'd already shown she'd lie, manipulate, threaten. Do nothing, but that felt like the worst betrayal.
At 3 a.m., exhausted, Michael finally went home. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, looking for something he'd missed, some way to fix this. Then he remembered. "I'm good with photo editing, Michael. Real good." Photo editing, fake texts, manufactured evidence. An idea formed. If Emma could fake evidence against him, couldn't he do the same? Create his own insurance? Michael sat up and grabbed his laptop. He spent 2 hours researching. Background checks, social media deep dives, looking for anything about Emma's life. Her boyfriend Rick, her debts, looking for ammunition. What he found was worse than he'd imagined. Emma's real name wasn't Emma. It was Emily Morrison. She changed it legally 2 years ago. And Emily Morrison had a record. Small-time fraud, identity theft, forgery. Nothing major enough for serious jail time, but enough to establish a pattern. She'd been arrested in Portland 3 times, always for scams targeting lonely, vulnerable people, always asking for money, always disappearing once she got it. And Rick wasn't her ex-boyfriend. He was her partner. They'd been running cons together for 5 years. Michael's phone rang at 7 a.m. Sarah. "Hey," she said, sounding tired but happy. "Sorry to call so early. I couldn't sleep. I keep thinking about last night, about Emma, about everything." "Yeah, me too." "I was thinking we could all have dinner this week.
You, me, and Emma. I know it's weird, but you're part of this story now. You're the reason we found each other. Sarah, I know what you're going to say, that I don't want to intrude, that this is family stuff. But Michael, you've always been family to me, even after the divorce. Last night proved that. I need to tell you something. Okay. Her voice was cautious now. Can we meet in person? There's something you need to know about Emma. Long pause. What kind of something? The kind that's better face to face. Can you come to my place? You're scaring me, Michael. I know, I'm sorry, but this is important. Another pause. Okay, give me an hour. Michael spent that hour pacing, rehearsing. How do you tell someone their miracle is a scam? How do you break their heart for their own good? When Sarah arrived, she looked anxious. What's going on? Sit down, Michael said gently. Sarah sat on his couch, hands twisted together. Just tell me. So Michael told her everything. The conversation in the car, Emily's real name and criminal record, the boyfriend Rick, the plan to extort money, the threats Emma made, the truth about who she really was. Sarah's face went through every emotion: shock, denial, anger, devastation. When Michael finished, she was crying silently. You're lying. You're making this up because you're jealous or you want me back or... Sarah. Michael pulled up his laptop and showed her. The background check, the arrest records, the social media posts from Rick bragging about their cons, the patterns, the evidence. Sarah read through it all, her face getting paler. When she finished, she sat back and stared at nothing. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. She's a professional con artist. This is what she does. She finds vulnerable people and exploits them. But you figured it out. I got lucky. I saw a text by accident. Otherwise, I would have believed her too. Sarah was quiet for a long time. What do I do? You cut her off, block her number, don't see her again. But she'll just do this to someone else. She'll find another lonely person and hurt them. That's not your responsibility. Isn't it? If I know she's a con artist and do nothing, aren't I complicit in her next victim? I hadn't thought of it that way. What are you suggesting? I want to call her. I want to confront her. Sarah, that's not a good idea. She's dangerous. I don't care. I need to look her in the eye and ask her, why? Why me? Because you have money and you're vulnerable. That's all the why there is. Maybe there's more. Maybe she really is my sister and she's just desperate. Maybe there's a way to help her without being a victim. You can't save her. I'm not trying to save her. I just want the truth. The real truth, not the con, not the manipulation. I want to know if any part of what she said was real. I understood that need. The need to know if the person you trusted was entirely fake or if there had been moments of genuine connection. Okay, but I'm coming with you. Michael, non-negotiable. If you're going to confront her, I'm there for safety if nothing else. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but let me handle the talking. They called Emmett together, phone on speaker. She answered on the second ring, cheerful. Sarah, I was just thinking about you. I was going to text about getting lunch. We need to talk in person now. Emma's tone changed. Is everything okay? The daily grind, 30 minutes. Don't be late. Sarah hung up before Emma could respond. They drove in silence. Michael kept glancing at Sarah, worried, but her face was composed, determined. She'd shifted into her analytical mode, where emotion took a back seat to logic. Emma was already there, sitting at the same table. She was nervous, glancing between them. What's going on? Why do you both look so serious? Sarah sat across from her. Michael stood behind, close enough to intervene if needed. I know who you are. Emily Morrison. 3 arrests for fraud in Portland. Changed your name 2 years ago. Currently working with your boyfriend Rick to run cons on vulnerable people.
Emily Morrison went completely still. Her face didn't change, but I could see calculations happening behind her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Michael heard your conversation last night, after we left. He knows about your plan to extort money. And I ran a background check. I know everything. Emily was quiet. Then her shoulders slumped and she laughed, bitter, exhausted. Of course you did. Of course the data analyst ran a background check. I'm such an idiot. So it's true. All of it? Most of it. Emily admitted. Yes, I have a record. Yes, Rick and I worked together. Yes, I was planning to ask you for money. Yes, I manipulated our meeting. She looked up, and there were real tears. But not all of it was a lie, Sarah. The DNA is real. We really are twins. Don't try to manipulate me again. I'm not. Everything I said about feeling incomplete, about searching for family, that was true. Yes, I saw an opportunity to make some money, but I also saw a chance to not be alone anymore. Both things were true. What about Patricia, our birth mother? Is she real? Emily hesitated just a second too long. Sarah's face crumpled. Oh, God. You made her up? No, she's real. The DNA match is real, but... She took a shaky breath. But the messages aren't. I wrote them. I created a fake account and sent them to myself to make it look like she had been searching for us. The betrayal on Sarah's face was devastating. Why? Why would you do that? Because I needed you to trust me. I needed you to feel like we were in this together. I needed... She stopped, realizing how terrible that sounded. I'm sorry. I know that's not good enough, but I'm sorry. Have you even contacted Patricia? Does she know we exist? Emily shook her head. No. I was going to eventually, after I got the money, but I haven't reached out yet. Sarah stood abruptly. I want you out of my life. Delete my number. Forget you ever found me. If you contact me again, I'll report you to the police. Sarah, please. We could have had something real. You're my sister. My twin. We could have had a relationship. A family. But you chose money over that. You chose the con over connection. So now you have nothing. Congratulations. Emily was crying openly. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but Sarah, please, just listen. No. Sarah turned to Michael. Let's go.
They walked out, leaving Emily crying at the table. They got to the parking lot before Sarah broke. She leaned against Michael's car and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that seemed to come from her core. Michael pulled her into his arms and let her cry. I thought I'd found her, Sarah gasped between sobs. I thought I'd finally found the missing piece. But she was never real. None of it was real. Some of it was real, Michael said quietly. The DNA is real. You do have a twin sister. She's just broken in ways you can't fix. And Patricia. God, I got my hopes up about having a mother who wanted me. And that was fake too. Patricia is real. A DNA match was real, even if the messages weren't. She's out there. You could still find her. Sarah pulled back, wiping her eyes. What if she doesn't want to be found? What if Emily's lie was closer to the truth? Then you'll know, and you'll deal with it. But at least you'll know. Sarah looked at him, really looked at him. Why are you still here, Michael? Why are you helping me through this? We've been divorced for 2 years. You don't owe me anything. Because you're important to me. You always have been. And when someone important to you is hurting, you show up. It's that simple. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again. I was so angry at you for so long, for the divorce, for not fighting harder, for letting us fall apart. But you've done more for me in the last 24 hours than anyone has in my entire life. I just drove an Uber, that's all. You did more than that, and you know it. Sarah took a shaky breath. Can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. Why did we really get divorced? Not the surface reasons.
The real reason. Michael was quiet, thinking. Because we stopped being able to be ourselves around each other. We turned into polite strangers who lived in the same house. I couldn't tell you I wasn't sure about having kids. You couldn't tell me you felt incomplete and didn't know why. We both pretended everything was fine until one day we realized we'd been pretending for years. Sarah nodded slowly. I felt so empty during our marriage, like that was a hole in me that nothing could fill. Not your love, not my career, not anything. And I blamed you for that emptiness. I thought you were supposed to make me feel whole. And I thought I'd failed you. I thought if I could just be better, work harder, love you more, you'd be happy. But I couldn't fix something I didn't understand. It wasn't your job to fix me. That's what I'm realizing now. The emptiness I felt, that had nothing to do with you. It was about not knowing where I came from, about being adopted and feeling like I was missing essential information about who I was. And I put that on you, instead of dealing with it myself. They stood there, saying things they should have said years ago. Do you think we could have made it work? Sarah asked quietly. If we'd had this conversation back then? Michael thought about it. Maybe. Or maybe we needed to fall apart so we could learn how to be honest with ourselves and each other. That's depressing, that we had to destroy our marriage to figure out what we were doing wrong. Or it's hopeful. We're having this conversation now. That's worth something. Sarah smiled sadly. Yeah, it is. A car pulled into the lot, Emily's car. She got out and walked toward them. Sarah tensed, but Michael put a hand on her arm. Let's hear what she has to say. Emily stopped a few feet away. I know you don't want to see me. I know I don't deserve anything. But I need to tell you something. About Patricia. About our birth mother. More lies, Sarah said coldly. No, the truth. Finally. Emily took a shaky breath. I didn't fake the DNA match. That's real. Patricia Morrison is our biological mother. But the reason she never searched for us, the reason there aren't any real messages, it's because she died. 6 years ago. Cancer. The words hit like a physical blow. Sarah actually staggered, and Michael caught her. What? Sarah whispered. I'm sorry, Emily said, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely sorry. Not manipulative, just sad. I found out when I was researching her. She passed away in 2019. That's why I faked the messages, because I knew if I told you she was dead, you'd have no reason to connect with me. The fantasy of a mother who had been searching was the only card I had to play. You let me hope, Sarah said, breaking. You let me think I could meet her, that I could ask her why, that I could hear her say she loved me. I know, and I'm so sorry. There's no excuse. I wanted a sister so badly, and I thought if I could make you want the same thing, we could have that, even if it was built on lies. That's not how family works. You can't manufacture connection through manipulation. It's either real or it's nothing. I know that now. Too late, but I know it. Silence. 3 people bound by DNA and broken by choices. I want you to leave Seattle, Sarah said, finally. I want you to take whatever money you need, leave this city, and never contact me again. Emily's eyes widened. What? I'll give you $50,000, the amount you were planning to extort. I'll give it to you willingly. But in exchange, you leave. You cut all ties. You let me move forward without the constant fear that you'll show up and hurt me again. Sarah, Michael started. This is my decision, Sarah said firmly. I need this to end, and the only way it ends is if she's gone. Emily was staring at Sarah. You'd still give me money after everything? Not for you, for me, so I can close this chapter and move on, so I don't have to wonder when you'll appear next or who you'll hurt. Consider it payment for my peace of mind. I don't know what to say. Say yes, take the money and leave. That's all I want from you. Emily nodded slowly. Okay, yes, I'll go. I'll wire the money tomorrow, and then I never want to hear from you again. We're not sisters. We're just 2 people who happen to share DNA. That's all we'll ever be. Emily started to say something, then stopped. She nodded once more and walked back to her car. They watched her drive away, and Michael knew they'd never see her again. Sarah turned to him, exhausted beyond measure. Take me home. Of course. They drove in silence, not uncomfortable, but
complete. When they pulled up to Sarah's condo, she didn't immediately get out. "Michael," she said quietly, "thank you. For telling me the truth, for protecting me, for being here. Always." Sarah leaned over and kissed his cheek, a soft press of lips that felt like goodbye and hello all at once. Then she got out and walked to her door. She turned back once, gave him a small wave, and disappeared inside. Michael sat there, feeling like something fundamental had changed. Not a reconciliation exactly, but a reconnection. An understanding that they still mattered to each other, even if they couldn't be together. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Patricia Morrison. I got your number from my DNA match page. I understand you have information about my daughters. Please call me." Michael stared at the message, heart pounding. Then he forwarded it to Sarah with a single line. "Your birth mother is alive. Emily lied about this too. Call her." Within seconds, Sarah called him back. "What do you mean she's alive? The death record? Must have been for a different Patricia Morrison, or Emily made it up, like she made up everything else. Either way, the woman who matched your DNA is alive and wants to talk to you." He could hear Sarah crying, but this time they weren't tears of grief, they were tears of hope. 3 months passed. Michael sat in his Uber outside Pike Market, waiting for his next ride. The Seattle rain had finally given way to weak autumn sunshine. His phone buzzed. "Want to grab coffee later?" From Sarah. They'd been doing this every week, meeting for coffee, talking about everything and nothing, slowly rebuilding a friendship buried under their failed marriage. "Sure," you texted back. "The usual place?" "Actually, there's someone I want you to meet. Come to my place at 6. Michael felt curiosity flutter. "Okay, see you then."
At 6 o'clock, Michael knocked on Sarah's door. She answered immediately, smiling wider than he'd seen in years. "Come in. There's someone I want you to meet." Michael walked into the living room and stopped short. A woman sat on Sarah's couch. 50s, kind eyes, Sarah's smile. Even without introduction, Michael knew who she was. "Michael," Sarah said, voice thick with emotion, "this is Patricia, my birth mother." Patricia stood and extended her hand, eyes searching Michael's face with the same intensity Sarah always had. "It's nice to finally meet you. Sarah's told me so much about you." They shook hands, and Michael was struck by the surreal nature of this moment. 3 months ago, this woman had been a fantasy, a name on a DNA test, a mystery wrapped in lies. And now she was real, solid, standing in Sarah's living room like she belonged there. "Please sit," Patricia said, as if this were her home. "I've been wanting to thank you." Michael sat, confused. "Thank me for what?" "For finding Sarah, for bringing us together. She told me the whole story, how you picked up that woman in your Uber, how you recognized the resemblance, how you put the pieces together." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I've been searching for my daughters for 34 years, and you found one of them in a single night. That's a miracle." "It was mostly luck," Michael said, glancing at Sarah. "Maybe, or maybe it was meant to be. Either way, I'm grateful." Sarah sat beside her mother, and Michael could see she was thinking of Patricia that way now, and took her hand. "Tell Michael about the adoption, about what really happened." Patricia's face clouded with old pain. "I was 19, a sophomore in college. I got pregnant by my boyfriend, Sarah's father, and he wanted nothing to do with it. I was going to drop out, keep the babies, figure it out somehow. But then my parents found out I was having twins and they panicked. They said there was no way I could handle 2 babies alone. They pressured me to give you up." "Both of us?" Michael asked. "That was the plan, a closed adoption, both girls going to the same family. The agency promised you'd stay together. They promised that even though I couldn't keep you, you'd have each other." Her voice broke. "But when I went to sign the final papers, they told me the adoptive family had backed out. They could only take 1 baby. The agency said they'd found separate families for each of you, and it was better this way. More chances for successful placements. They split us up to make us easier to adopt," Sarah said flatly. "I didn't want to sign. I told them no, that I'd keep you both if they couldn't keep you together. But my parents, they'd already paid the agency fees. They'd already told everyone I was going away to school. And they told me if I didn't sign, they'd cut me off completely. No money for college, no support, nothing. I'd be 19, alone, with 2 babies and no way to feed them. Tears streamed down her face. So I signed. I signed away both my daughters because I was young and scared, and I let other people make my decisions. Michael felt a lump in his throat. This was the woman Emily had lied about, the mother who supposedly never cared, never searched. And here she was, still carrying guilt from 34 years ago. The agency closed 5 years later. A fire destroyed most of the records. By the time I had money and resources to search, the trail was cold. I hired private investigators. I registered with every reunion database. I took DNA tests on every site. But there was nothing. No way to find you. Until 3 months ago, Sarah said softly. Until 3 months ago, when suddenly I got a notification that I had a DNA match, a daughter. She looked at Michael. Sarah told me about Emily, about what she tried to do. Michael nodded. She's gone, left Seattle the day after Sarah gave her the money. $50,000, Patricia said, shaking her head. That's a lot to pay someone to leave you alone. It was worth it, Sarah said, for my peace of mind, for closure. Have you heard from her since? Michael asked. Sarah shook her head. Not a word. Sometimes I wonder if I should try to find her, try to help her for real. But then I remember she made her choice. She chose the money over the relationship, and I have to respect that, even if I don't understand it. Patricia squeezed Sarah's hand. You did the right thing. Some people can't be saved no matter how much you love them. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let them go. They sat in silence, 3 people connected by blood and circumstance, mourning the family member who chose not to be family. Tell him the rest, Sarah said, looking at Patricia. Patricia's face brightened. I have information about Sarah's biological father. He's still alive, lives in California. I've been in contact with him. He didn't know about the pregnancy. I never told him. But when I reached out recently and explained everything, he was shocked, but interested. He wants to meet Sarah, if she wants to meet him. Sarah looked at Michael. I wanted to ask your opinion. Do you think I should? Michael was surprised by the question. Why does my opinion matter? Because you've been through this with me. You've seen me at my worst and my most hopeful. You know me better than almost anyone, and I trust your judgment. Michael thought carefully. I think you should do whatever feels right for you. There's no obligation to meet him just because he's biologically your father. But if you're curious, if you think it might bring you closure or understanding, then yes, take the chance. What if he's a disappointment? What if he's nothing like I hope? Then you'll deal with it, the same way you've dealt with everything else. You'll process it, learn from it, and move forward. That's what you do. Sarah smiled at him, the smile he'd fallen in love with all those years ago, full of warmth and trust and possibility. Okay, then I'll meet him. Patricia stood and she said, I should go, let you two catch up. She hugged Sarah tightly. I'll call you tomorrow about setting up a time to fly down to California. Sounds good. Patricia turned to Michael. Thank you again for everything. You brought my daughter back to me. That's a debt I can never repay. You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad it worked out. After Patricia left, Sarah and Michael sat together in comfortable silence. Finally, Sarah spoke. I've been thinking a lot about Emily, about why she did what she did. And I think I understand it. Not excuse it, but understand it. She saw me as having everything she didn't. And in a way, she was right. I had loving adoptive parents, a stable childhood, opportunities. She had whatever she had. And when she found out we were twins separated by nothing but chance and agency logistics, it probably felt profoundly unfair. That doesn't justify the con. No, it doesn't, but it explains it. We were both given up by the same mother on the same day, but I got lucky in the adoption lottery and she didn't. Everything in my life could have been hers if she'd been placed with a different family, and everything in her life could have been mine. We're the same person, split by circumstance.
You're not the same person. You share DNA, but you made different choices. She chose manipulation and lies. You chose honesty and vulnerability. Those choices matter more than genetics. Maybe I only made better choices because I had better opportunities. It's hard to be honest when you're desperate. It's hard to be vulnerable when you've been hurt too many times.
Michael considered this. So, what are you saying? That you forgive her? I'm saying I understand her, and I hope she's okay, wherever she is. I hope she's using that money to actually get her life together instead of running another con. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for. That's very generous of you. It's selfish, actually, because hating her takes too much energy, and I want to use that energy for other things, better things. They sat quietly for another moment. Then Sarah said, "Can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. Do you think we could try again? Us? Knowing what we know now?" The question hung in the air. Michael felt his heart race, felt 1,000 emotions swirl. Hope, fear, longing, caution. "I don't know," he said finally. "I think we're in a good place right now. I don't want to risk losing that." Me neither. But I also think about what we talked about how we needed to fall apart to learn how to be honest. And I wonder if we've learned enough now, if we could do it better this time. Or we could ruin what we've rebuilt, turn this good thing into something complicated and painful again. Sarah nodded slowly. "You're right. We should leave it alone." But neither of them moved. Neither looked away. And in that moment, Michael realized the truth. They would always be pulled toward each other. Whether they acted on it or not was the question. "What if we took it slow?" Sarah said quietly. "What if we just dated, like normal people? No pressure, no expectations, just see where it goes." Michael felt something loosen in his chest. "You want to date your ex-husband? I want to date you, the person sitting in front of me right now. Not the person I was married to. That person's gone. We're both different now." "We are," Michael agreed. "So, what do you think? Want to go on a date with me sometime?" Michael looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who had been his wife, his greatest heartbreak, and now somehow his closest friend, at the woman who had been lost and was slowly finding herself, at the woman who had survived betrayal and loss and was still brave enough to ask for what she wanted. "Yes," he said, "I'd like that very much." Sarah smiled, and it was radiant. "Good, because I already made reservations for tomorrow night, that new Italian place on Capitol Hill." Michael laughed, a genuine full laugh that felt like release. "You made reservations before asking me? I was reasonably confident you'd say yes. Data analysis, remember? I calculated the probability based on available variables. And what was the probability? 73%, which is high enough to book a table, but low enough to keep me nervous." They sat there grinning at each other like teenagers, and for the first time in years, Michael felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope of someone trying to save a dying relationship, but the quiet, steady hope of someone who had learned from their mistakes and was ready to try again. "I should go," Michael said, standing. "Let you get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day." Sarah stood too, walking him to the door. At the threshold, she hesitated, then reached up and kissed him, not on the cheek this time, but on the lips. It was soft, tentative, full of question marks. When she pulled back, her eyes were searching his face. "Was that okay?" she asked. "That was more than okay," Michael said quietly. "Good, because I've been wanting to do that for weeks." Michael smiled. "See you tomorrow night? 7 o'clock. Don't be late." "I'm an Uber driver. Punctuality is literally my job." Sarah laughed and closed the door, and Michael walked to his car feeling lighter than he had in 2 years. The next evening, Michael arrived at Sarah's building at exactly 6:59 p.m. He'd spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing what to wear, finally settling on dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt that Sarah had always said brought out his eyes.
He felt ridiculous being nervous about a date with someone he had been married to for 7 years, but there it was. Butterflies in his stomach, sweaty palms, the whole cliché package. Sarah opened the door and took his breath away. She was wearing a simple black dress, her hair down in soft waves, minimal makeup. She looked exactly like herself, which was exactly what Michael loved. "Hi," she said suddenly, shy. "Hi," I replied. "You look beautiful. You clean up pretty well yourself." She grabbed her jacket. "Ready?" They drove to the restaurant in Michael's car, not his Uber, but his personal car that he rarely used anymore. The conversation flowed easily, comfortable, about nothing important. Sarah told me about a project at work. Michael told me about a passenger he had driven who claimed to have invented a new type of sandwich. They laughed and talked like old friends, which is what they were, underneath everything else. The restaurant was intimate, with soft lighting and a tiny patio strung with fairy lights. They were seated at a corner table, menus placed in front of them with a flourish. "This place is nice," Michael said, looking around. "How did you find it?" "Patricia recommended it. She and her partner came here last week when they visited." "Her partner?" Sarah nodded, smiling. "Turns out Patricia's been in a relationship with a woman named Carl for 20 years. She was nervous to tell me, thought I'd judge her. Can you imagine? After everything, she thought I'd care about who she loves? And I told her I was happy she had someone, that everyone deserves love in whatever form they find it. Which I'm realizing is advice I should have taken myself." "What do you mean?" "I spent so long thinking love had to look a certain way. Marriage, kids, white picket fence, the whole package. And when our marriage didn't fit that perfect picture, I thought it meant we'd failed. But maybe love is just showing up, being honest, choosing someone even when it's hard." "That's a pretty good definition," Michael said softly. They ordered food and wine, and as the evening progressed, Michael felt himself relaxing into the moment. This wasn't about recapturing what they'd lost. This was about discovering what they could build now, with all the lessons they had learned and all the scars they carried. "Can I ask you something?" as they shared a tiramisu for dessert. "What was the moment you knew our marriage was over?"
Michael had thought about this question countless times. It wasn't one moment, it was 1,000 small moments. Every time we chose silence over honesty, every time we went to bed angry, every time we walked past each other like roommates instead of partners. But if I had to pick one moment, it was the night you asked me if I wanted kids, and I said someday instead of telling you the truth. Which was? That I didn't know. That the idea of being a father terrified me. That I was worried I'd be bad at it, or that kids would expose all the ways I was inadequate. But instead of telling you that, I just said someday, and let you keep hoping for something I wasn't sure I could give you. Sarah was quiet, processing. I wish she had told me. I wish I had too. Maybe things would have been different. Or maybe we would have thought about it and divorced anyway. We'll never know. Sarah took a sip of wine. For what it's worth, I don't know if I really wanted kids either. I think I wanted the idea of kids. The complete family, the thing that would make me feel whole. But I was looking for wholeness in all the wrong places. And now? Now I know that wholeness comes from understanding yourself, from knowing where you came from and accepting where you are, from choosing connection even when it's scary. She reached across the table and took his hand. I'm grateful for Patricia. I'm grateful I found my birth mother. But I'm also grateful for the family I chose. My adoptive parents who loved me fiercely. And I'm grateful for you, Michael, for the years we had and the friendship we're building now. Michael squeezed her hand. Even with all the pain? Especially with all the pain. Because the pain taught me things I needed to learn about myself, about relationships, about what really matters. They finished dessert and walked back to the car, hands still linked. Michael felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in years. Not the desperate happiness of new love, but the deeper satisfaction of coming home to someone who truly knew you. "Do you want to come up?" Sarah asked when they reached her building. "Just for coffee. I'm not ready for the night to end." "I'd love to." They sat on Sarah's couch with mugs of tea. Sarah had never been much of a coffee drinker, despite what she told Emma, and talked until past midnight. They talked about everything they'd never talked about during their marriage.
their fears, their dreams, their regrets. They talked about Emily and wondered if she was okay wherever she was. They talked about Patricia and the upcoming trip to California to meet Sarah's biological father. "I'm scared," Sarah admitted. "What if he's disappointed in me? What if I'm not what he hoped for?" "Then he's an idiot," Michael said firmly. "Sarah, you're brilliant and kind and brave. Anyone would be lucky to have you in their life." "You're biased." "I'm honest. There's a difference." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat like that for a long while, comfortable in the silence. Finally, Sarah spoke again. "Michael, I'm glad we're doing this, whatever this is. Taking it slow, figuring it out as we go. It feels right." "It does. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If it starts to feel wrong, if we start falling into old patterns, we have to be honest about it. We have to talk about it instead of letting it fester. Can you promise me that?" "I promise." "And you have to promise me the same thing." "I promise." They sealed it with a kiss, and this time there was no hesitation, no uncertainty. Just two people who had found their way back to each other through the most unexpected of journeys. 6 months later, Michael pulled his Uber into a familiar spot outside Pike Place Market. It was a warm spring evening, the kind that made Seattle feel like the most beautiful city in the world. His phone buzzed, not with a ride request, but with a text from Sarah. "Patricia's flight just landed. We're heading to dinner. Want to join us?" Michael smiled. "Can't tonight. Have a pickup in 10 minutes. But tell her I said hi, and good luck with your dad tomorrow." Sarah was flying to California the next day to meet her biological father for the first time. She'd been nervous for weeks, and Michael had talked her through every anxiety. They'd come a long way in 6 months. Dating, yes, but also learning how to be partners. Real partners, who communicated and supported and showed up for each other. His phone buzzed again. "Wish you were here. I'm nervous." "You're gonna be amazing, and I'll be here when you get back. Always." A heart emoji appeared on his screen, and Michael felt warmth spread through his chest. They hadn't said "I love you" yet. They were taking things slow, careful not to rush into declarations they might not be ready to keep. But Michael knew he loved her. He'd probably never stop loving her. The difference now was that he also liked her, respected her, chose her every day, not out of obligation or history, but because she was the person he wanted beside him. His phone lit up with a ride request. He accepted it and started driving, navigating the familiar streets of Seattle, the city where he'd fallen in love, gotten married, gotten divorced, and was slowly learning to try again. The city where he'd picked up an impossible passenger on a rainy night and changed 3 lives forever. He wondered sometimes about Emily, whether she'd used the money to truly start over or whether she'd burned it through and moved on to the next con. Sarah wondered too, I know, though she didn't talk about it much anymore. Some questions didn't have answers. Some people couldn't be saved, no matter how much you loved them or how badly you wanted to help. But some people could be. Some people were worth fighting for. Some people were worth taking a chance on even after you'd failed them once before. Michael pulled up to his pickup location, a young couple leaving a restaurant, laughing and leaning into each other. They climbed in his back seat, and the woman gave an address I recognized. "Big night?" Michael asked as he pulled into traffic. "The biggest," the man said, grinning. He held up the woman's hand, showing off a ring. It sparkled under the streetlights. "Just got engaged." "Congratulations," Michael said, and he meant it. Once upon a time, seeing happy couples made me bitter, had reminded me of everything I'd lost. But now it just made me hopeful. Reminded me that love was possible, even after it fell apart, even after you thought you'd used up all your chances.
Up next, 2 more incredible stories are waiting for you right on your screen. If you enjoyed this one, you won't want to miss these. Just click to watch and don't forget to subscribe.